Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. Just be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class if you've not been watching my videos. I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Do you think it's a reasonable assumption that the Prime Minister of a country who has ultimate responsibility for all of our safety, security, and prosperity should be paid the same as, let's say, the average chief executive of a FTSE 100 company? Does that sound reasonable? Like, you know, the boss of the whole country who's responsible for the government ministers, the civil service, the army, the economy, the treasury, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there isn't a job with more responsibility than that in the country. There is no other job with the higher responsibility. Excuse me. And cabinet ministers, similar, right? If you're in charge of the defense or home security or education or housing, let's say. So what do you reckon the difference is between the average cabinet minister's salary and the average FTSE CEO salary? How many cabinet ministers could you get for one FTSE salary, right? Well, it's 4.2 million pounds a year is the median salary of all FTSE 100 companies. I'll just put up on screen for those of you who think I'm making it up, right? I just asked Grok for this, and this is what it came up with, right? Average salary of FTSE 100 CEO is 4.22 million in 2025, right? That is a salary. That is, I mean, it's like 400 grand a month, nearly. So 3 times. And then the UK Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers are getting the 93 grand MP salary plus 67 grand for a Cabinet Minister and 78 grand for the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister gets 12 grand a year more than a Cabinet Minister. Are we surprised? Is anybody surprised that the caliber, and I'm talking about the professional caliber, the competence, the experience, the skill set required in the most important jobs in the country is so poor when we're only paying them 1/25th of the average company boss salary of the FTSE 100? Right? 4%. The Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers roughly get 4% of the salary of people running companies, just running companies. I mean, important companies, they may be oil companies, they may be mining companies, but none of those companies is as important as running the country, where all of us and our children's prospects rely on the decisions made by these people. And yet, I hear more from the electorate that, oh, they're already paid 90 grand, that's more than enough. I struggle to comprehend the level of stupidity of that attitude. And I know that I have followers of mine who think that, but I want you to stop. I'm not trying to offend you. I want you to just stop and think about it for a second. What sane, competent, skilled adult who actually possessed the ability to do the job of a cabinet minister or government minister well would take a job that pays 4% of a FTSE 100 company boss? Just think about it. Would you do a job that you're capable of for 1/25th of what other people are being paid to do it? Now ask yourself, because I know all of you who think, well, they're already paid more than enough, 90 grand's more than enough to live off. Oh, it's more than enough to live off. Only someone who's never had a job where you had responsibility for large numbers of other people's lives and security and prosperity would say such a thing or think such a thing. But if that's what people think when they cast their vote, then there's no wonder we repeatedly and continually vote in such groups of substandard people. Now, this is not a personal attack on any of those people. I think all MPs have a thankless task, whatever their motivations for doing the job. No one does it for the money. Believe me, nobody does it for the money, because you don't get paid enough for the shit you have to deal with as an MP. And anyone who thinks otherwise, you're just wrong. You're just plain wrong. And if you care about the fact that houses are unaffordable and the fact that tenants are being fucked over and landlords are being fucked over and borrowers are being fucked over and house sellers are being fucked over and everyone living in this country with their energy bills unfairly going up is being fucked over. If you care about any of these things and these things annoy you, then you should care equally about the caliber of people we have in government of any party. And until we, as an electorate, start to care about the caliber of people in there, nothing's going to improve, because we're never going to get people wanting those jobs who actually have what it takes to make a positive difference. It's weird. The MP who I currently have the most respect for as an MP is probably the MP with whose policies I disagree the most, right? Anyway, that's beside the point. That's beside the point. Anyway, there's no until somebody puts forward an amendment or a suggestion or a legislation that changes the pay. I mean, even if you don't change MP's pay, you need to change cabinet ministers' pay. Because the other thing that has to happen is that cabinet ministers need to earn enough from their salary for that job of being a cabinet minister that they do not need to take side hustles, to take consulting roles, to take non-executive board positions, to take any other paid work. It should be against the law for serving government ministers to accept paid work from outside Parliament, right? Because guess what? They're all allowed to do it. They all need to do it because they are not paid enough to live, right? These salaries are not enough. This Prime Minister's salary is not enough to buy a family home in London. Let that sink in. Now, you can't blame Keir Starmer for where the housing market is now. Where the housing market is now, where affordability is now, goes back to the 80s and the 70s, right? Successive governments failing the housing market, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, is why we're in this mess. There's no point blaming estate agents. Estate agents are responsible for how slow transactions are, and estate agents are responsible for overvaluing, and they're responsible for crap customer service and letting deals fall through, but they are not responsible for the state of the housing market as a whole. In other words, the pricing and that kind of stuff. That is 100% government policy. Okay? Do not think that agents are responsible for house prices. They're not. It's one of the biggest myths that people think, oh, house prices are too high because agents put them up too high. Agents don't control house prices. They just don't. They just don't. I'm not even going to spend time explaining why the agents are responsible for so many things, and they do so many things wrong and so many things badly, but they have no responsibility whatsoever for actual house prices, right? House prices are controlled by what people can afford to pay. And what people can afford to pay is influenced by what they're allowed to borrow. And that comes down to lenders and government policy, not estate agents, right? So the condition of the housing market is 100% the result of failed government policy. Every single time any government intervenes in the housing market, they make it worse. Labour, Tory, doesn't matter. Any of them, when they interfere, they make it worse. And it's frustrating for those of us who can see, without any political background, what would make the housing market better and make housing more affordable and make moving house less expensive and easier and improve social mobility, which is the number one thing any government should be looking to do, is improve social mobility. And it's frustrating for those of us who do have the knowledge, the understanding, and the ideas of how to fix the housing market, that each government just continues to ignore and says, look, I don't care as long as I get voted in, I don't care what happens next election. And they put rubbish housing ministers in. And they put, like, take Matthew Pennycook now, right? Matthew Pennycook. I like him. I think he's a good guy. I think he genuinely wants to make a difference and improve the housing market. But he's underqualified and underpowered to do it, and is already making excuses for why they're not going to meet the targets, and they're not going to meet house building targets, and they're not going to change leasehold reform. Is not going to happen, right? Those of us who've been in the housing market long enough knew all this before he was elected. He's only now beginning to understand the reality of it. Why is that? Well, we're getting underqualified, inexperienced, incompetent. I don't say that as an insult or an offense. It's a straightforward fact. They are under-equipped to do the job they're being given, and we are the ones paying for it. Yes, this video was a result of seeing Rachel Reeves crying in the House of Commons today. Because nothing I've seen, I don't know why she was crying. I'm not going to speculate on why she was crying. But nothing I have seen illustrates more clearly the dangers of underqualified, incompetent people in positions of power that influence all of our lives. And anyone who thinks that it's a good idea to underpay people with that much responsibility doesn't understand what responsibility actually means, when it's responsibility for people you don't know. We're all responsible for our families and our children, and maybe our friends, whatever else, right? And both of us as business owners are responsible for those that we employ. But government ministers have responsibility for actually tens of millions of strangers. Oh, just pay them an hour. Someone actually said today on X, they should just get an average wage. Think about the stupidity of that comment. People doing that job, which affects tens of millions of our lives and our futures, should get paid average wage. Honestly, just stop and think that through for a minute. Put aside your envy and your jealousy about people who earn more money than you, and think about the stupidity of that comment, because this is why we're in this fucking predicament. Because people actually voted this party in. People who may have seen my 11-hour-long live stream on election night this time last year will remember me saying, whatever happens, do not vote in this Labour government. Or the Tories. The Tories deserve to go. They were a shower of shit as well. But I could see, based on the people lined up, Starmer and Reeves especially, that this government was going to be an absolute train wreck clusterfuck, with all of us on board the train wreck. And what really frustrated me at the time was the naivety of Starmer and Reeves and others in their electioneering, where you could just see these guys haven't got a fucking clue about the job and what it entails. Oh, I've always wanted to be Chancellor. Who gives a fuck what you want? This is not about you fulfilling your career ambitions. This is about you taking responsibility for the lives of tens of millions of people. Sorry, I'm just trying to calm myself down. It's not a good look getting this angry. I am angry though, because I do you know what? You can't even blame Starmer. You can't blame Reeves. You can't blame underqualified, incompetent people who get lucky in their career wanting this power and wanting this recognition. Okay? You can't blame them. Are they power hungry? Yes. Is that a good thing? Obviously not. But they're just people trying to make the best of their career. That's an understandable human thing to do, and they are all humans. Remember that, right? So I don't actually blame Starmer or Reeves. I mean, personally, they both achieved a lot getting into those positions. I blame everybody who voted for them. I know people go, well, there was no one else to vote for, whatever else, and I respect everyone's choice to vote for what they wanted. But I mean, there was even that guy, Sacha Lord, who was shilling for the Labour Party before the election, who's now realised the error of his ways and is going, oh my God, we've got to get them out. And I asked him the question on X and he responded, why did you think this was going to be okay? And his answer was, because she said so. It was literally because, well, she said she'd be the Chancellor of Business and Growth. And that was enough for you? You absolute fuck trumpet. That was enough for you to publicly go, yes, everyone should vote for Reeves because she said she's going to be. Oh. When you're faced with levels of incompetence like this, that's affecting all of our lives while they get away with it, and they're going to just be fine and have cushy lives for good. There are two separate questions. Well, number one, how do we take care of ourselves when the government is letting us all down so badly? And number two, what can we do to change this? There's very, very little we can do to change this. And I'm telling you that nothing will change, no matter which government is elected in, until cabinet ministers are paid like company bosses. Okay, why would you? Why would you want to go and get a job to be with that level of response? I mean, the only reason you want those jobs is for the power, and basically that means it attracts all the wrong people, because nobody who wants power should ever get it. If cabinet ministers were paid £500,000. Now, I know to people on median salary, that sounds like an unimaginable amount of money, right? But I think a basic, let's just use house prices, right? Let's say you want to be able to buy a family house in London where you work, if you're in the cabinet, right? Well, a family house in London starts at about £1.5 million. Okay, so you need enough for a deposit and a mortgage and the running costs. And don't forget that about 80% of your salary is being taxed at 40%. So you're not actually earning £500,000. You're not earning anything like it, right? I think cabinet ministers should be on a salary that allows them to afford to buy a house, a family home in London, and to do their job and raise a family and be able to afford to raise a family in London. I don't think that they're worth £500,000. I'm saying they should be paid enough to afford a house and to raise a family where they work. That's what I think. And I think that if you are in one of the top jobs, I think the Chancellor's job should be probably £1 million a year at least. Because I tell you what, there are people in the financial sector earning £1 million with less responsibility than Rachel Reeves has, who understand what she's doing more than she does, who literally have a better grasp of maths and balance sheets than she does, and understand that you don't abuse your employer's credit card, especially when your employer is Her Majesty's government, His Majesty's government, which she did twice. Halifax had to wrap her on the knuckles and cancel her company credit card, and her parliamentary expenses credit card was abused as well. And she got the job as Chancellor. How was that allowed to happen? And the Prime Minister should be on probably £1.5 to £2 million a year. Not Keir Starmer. If the Prime Minister's salary had already been £1.5 to £2 million a year, we wouldn't have Keir Starmer as a Prime Minister now. Why? Because we wouldn't have someone who is a corporate shill by his own admission. He is on camera saying that Davos, in other words, the World Economic Forum, is more important to him than Westminster. We currently have a Prime Minister who has publicly admitted that corporate agenda is more important to him than Westminster, the House of Commons, the Houses of Parliament, the people we elect to run our country for us. This is just a fact. Look it up. If you don't believe me, go look it up. He's on camera being asked the question, Davos or Westminster? And he went, oh, Davos. That would not have happened if government ministers were not allowed to receive any money from corporations or lobbyists or anything like that. And parties weren't allowed to receive donations. They get funded in a different way. So it's not about who has the most funding. We would not have Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. We would not have Rachel Reeves as Chancellor of the Exchequer now if they were paid properly. If Cabinet Ministers were on £500,000, Chancellor on £1 million, Prime Minister on £1.5 million a year. We wouldn't have this problem. And the cost of those salaries would not even be a decimal point rounding error in terms of the budget. It would be unnoticeable to us as taxpayers if they were paid properly. And most importantly of all, if you put people in those jobs who know what they're doing, know how to operate a balance sheet, never mind a business, a balance sheet, know how to operate assets, know how to operate investments on behalf of the country, like the Norwegian government does, which is why it has a trillion surplus, right, of public money. That's what you get when you put competent, financially literate people in charge of a country's economy. You end up with a financial fucking surplus from which all of the citizens get to benefit. And those of you who go, oh, well, socialism works in Norway, or why wouldn't it work here? No, the reason Norway has such a great standard of living is because the government isn't in debt. And those of you who think government debt isn't real and tax isn't real, I mean, I don't have a rational response for you, I'm afraid. You just haven't got a clue. You're all theorists. Anyone who thinks that debt doesn't matter and tax isn't real is a fucking theorist who's never actually had the responsibility of finding the money to pay other people's salaries. Okay? Sorry, guys. I just had to get this off my chest tonight. But this, right? Fix housing, fix everything. I'm not going to go into it. I mean this, right? If you fix the functionality and affordability in the housing market, make housing more affordable and make it easier to move house, you unlock most of the country's problems, including economic prosperity. So, because this isn't going to happen anytime soon, I mean, honestly, it would be amazing if I could wave a magic wand and change one thing about our political system, it would be that. It would be all cabinet ministers are paid in line with large company executives and are 100% forbidden and banned from accepting money from anywhere or anyone else while they are in government. And if that happened, you would see a radical change in the people wanting to be ministers in the next government, whichever party they were from. And you would eliminate external corporate influence. You wouldn't have Bill fucking Gates going into Downing Street to tell Keir Starmer what he wants. You wouldn't have Larry Fink going into Downing Street to tell Keir Starmer what he wants. You wouldn't have Rachel Reeves whispering in the ear of BlackRock's CEO. None of that shit would happen if our government ministers were paid properly and if corporations were forbidden from influencing and lobbying government with money. By all means, lobby and influence with campaigning and messaging, that's fine, but not with money, because people can be bought. And that is why we have two parties that are basically owned, and they don't even hide it. So, I'm afraid this is a very sad conclusion to this video. Until a party gets into power and makes this change, where ministers are prevented from having external income and are paid enough to be able to afford a family home and to raise a family in London where they work, none of our problems are going away as a country. None of our problems are going away. All of the policies that most of us appear to oppose but are ignored is because of corporate lobbying more than anything else. You might sense my deep, passionate loathing of the influence that corporations have in so many places, right? Institutions are bad. They're just bad if they're run with money as the primary interest, with very, very few exceptions. So what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? What can we do without government help? Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do with Best Agent. It's what I'm working towards with Best Agent. And I have a very, very clear direction that achieves major improvements in the housing market without any change of policy. Okay. In a nutshell, if you shorten transaction times, you increase transaction volumes. And if you increase transaction volumes, you increase economic activity and social mobility. That's in an absolute nutshell. Okay. And I had an agent just today giving me a WhatsApp audio message about how they've just had a house go under offer that they took on with the no valuation approach 3 weeks ago. It's just come to the market. It's gone under offer immediately, and the seller is already exchange ready. They could exchange contracts tomorrow if the buyer was ready. The buyer's got to have a mortgage. There's got to be a lender valuation done. But as soon as that's done in a matter of days, they can exchange immediately. So the point being that shorter transactions are available. The number one reason that transactions are taking so long at the moment is indirectly caused by overvaluing, which again is just, I've said it a million times, agents and lenders shooting themselves in the foot trying to pump valuations. If you shorten transaction times, more people will move. Fall throughs will drop, transaction volumes will increase, and liquidity will improve. And prices will moderate and stabilize as well, and they won't go up so quickly if there are more transactions. The more liquidity there is, the less price sensitivity there is. And this can be done just by realigning commercial incentives with all the relevant stakeholders and parties in the house moving process. And that's what I'm doing. And I have a very clear plan to do it. And all of it involves stuff that's proven to work in other industries and that kind of stuff, the tech, the incentives, the rest of it, right? It all works. Just in this market, it's a bit more complicated because there are more stakeholders per transaction. So it is more complicated. Once that's achieved, once Best Agent has actually shown that improving transaction times, dramatically improving transaction times, moves the needle on liquidity and social mobility, then perhaps ironically, given the content in this video so far, Best Agent will be in a position to influence government. And what I would, I can hear Alex Groundwater Stiggy on my shoulder right now going, stop longer mortgages, stop longer mortgages, stop longer mortgages. And I would make that number 2. He'd make it number 1. I'd make it number 2. I would make number 1 the scrapping of stamp duty for residential transactions. Get rid of it for people, for home buyers and home sellers, not necessarily for landlords or other people, but well, certainly not for companies, but for private home buyers buying and selling, certainly their first home, but actually all homes. It would improve liquidity and everyone would benefit. Oh, but Charlie, what happens to the money that the Exchequer would lose if they did that? It would be more than replaced by the increased tax take from corporation tax, from VAT, from employment going back up and reducing the welfare bill. All of these things would happen on the back of increased transaction volumes, because at the moment, every single move has roughly £25,000 of what I call collateral spend when people move house, right? When a house is bought and sold, it's about 25,000 quid of collateral spend, at least, in fact. So if we were to get transaction volumes back to where they were in 2006, so nearly 20 years ago, we'd be doubling them. That would be an extra £25 billion a year in the economy, in GDP. It would radically improve. It would lift us out of recession. It would improve local economies, would improve on the back of it. Everyone would benefit, including estate agents and mortgage brokers and lenders. They would benefit too. But hey, if everyone else is doing well, nobody cares about that, do they? So scrapping stamp duty, you guys can hold me to this. If I'm ever lucky enough to be in the position where I do have any influence over government housing policy, scrapping stamp duty is number 1. And number 2, a close second, will be with Stiggy helping me present the numbers to show that offering higher multiples of salary and offering ever longer mortgage terms is ultimately kicking the can down the road and increasing impoverishment and increasing house prices, worsening affordability. If I'm ever lucky enough to be in that position, you guys can hold me to that, right? I really mean it. Hold me to it. Remind me. Come back to this video and go, watch that video where you said you'd do this. Yeah, there are people talking about fake it till you make it. You know what? I've got no problem with fake it till you make it if the job that you're going for doesn't hurt other people's lives when you fail. That's where you draw the line on the fake it till you make it, because she certainly has done that, fake it till you make it, no doubt, right? No doubt. You don't fake it till you make it when other people's welfare is at stake. And running the country and running the government is more important than running any business that we have. And so arguably they should be paid even more. And MPs should be paid more. I genuinely think they should. Because it is a thankless, exhausting task. It's an honourable task. Any MP that gets elected, in my view, has accomplished something remarkable, which is persuading more people to vote for them than the other candidates they were up against. That is an extraordinary achievement, right? And so even the MPs that I disagree with deeply and I don't like their conduct and everything else, I have a basic level of respect for that accomplishment, because that's not easy. But you can be a competent plumber and earn more than MPs do. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Right. I'm rambling now. So any questions or more comments on this particular topic? Edward Davis says, want to thank Charlie for housing advice and knowledge. Had house offer accepted for valuation price. It needs garage taken down and plastering for cracks. There were offers over. Worth negotiating. So your offer is accepted, and there were other offers over, but yours was accepted. Negotiating in that scenario would be risky. Would be risky. Anyway. I'm going to call it a night there, guys. Here endeth my rant. Thank you for watching. Thank you for allowing me to get this off my chest. And there's going to be no 5 Fact Friday video this week because I have a family funeral on Friday. But there will be the 5 Fact Friday newsletter. So if you want to get the newsletter, make sure you subscribe mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Make sure you've signed up for the free newsletter, and you will get the 5 Fact Friday email this week without a video this week. But you will get it on Friday morning. So please do sign up there if you haven't. And everybody, I would love to sign up to that anyway, because I just like being able to email you guys. And only about 1% of all my followers across platforms are currently signed up to my email newsletter. So it'd be great if you could be great if you would. Good night, guys. Sleep well. Stay strong. Don't lose hope if you're struggling. Struggle is real, but the sun rises every single day. And as long as you've got your health, you've got most of what you need. Good luck with the rest, and I'll see you.